There was one morning I came down the stairs, like it took me forever to get out of bed and turn and twist, and then forever to get to the landing, and then like 10 full minutes just to walk down the stairs one step at a time while nearly crying. And I was just standing in the kitchen, and she came in and just said to me, "What's wrong?" And I just said, "I wish I hadn't woke up this morning. I can't live like this anymore."
Welcome to the Next Level Guys Show podcast. I'm Ian, and this is where men rebuild discipline, confidence, and take control of their lives. No hype, no excuses, just real conversations and practical tools. Let's get into today's episode. Most men don't realise they're training themselves into the body that they'll eventually regret. We chase size, strength, and performance, but we quietly accept the stiff backs, the aching knees, and the painful shoulders that just do that thing now, that pop, that creak, that ache. But it doesn't need to be that way. One of the biggest compliments I can give this conversation is that I stopped thinking about mobility halfway through, because it isn't really just about mobility. It's about capability. It's about building a body that doesn't stop you doing the things that you'll love. A body that still says yes to playing with your kids, rolling on the mats, climbing a hill, carrying the shopping, or simply getting out of bed without wondering what's going to hurt today. Tom Morrison has helped tens of thousands of people move better, but what struck me most, it wasn't his knowledge, it was his philosophy. He doesn't believe your body's broken. He believes that most of us have simply spent years driving with the handbrake on, and he wants to show you how to let it off and move the way that you can and should be. If you've ever accepted pain, stiffness, long-term injuries, or slowing down as just part of getting older, or even worse, as a badge of honour for your past, I'd encourage you to listen to this one. I genuinely think it'll change the way you think about your body, and more importantly, what it's capable of. And now, let's get to the interview. What's the weather like over there?
Mental. It just doesn't stop. It's either sunny as all everything, and then next torrential rain. It's crazy. What about yourself, Sam?
It's like 4 seasons in a day, and it's
Yeah.
like you think you needed a jacket. You need a survival suit for that, mate. But thank you so much for coming on. You have no idea how much I've been looking forward to this. I have literally about 20 pages of research. But for people who don't know the James Bond-esque guy that's sitting in front of me, how would you describe who you are and what you do?
I am a mobility specialist, so I help people kind of figure out injuries that they may have or flexibility limitations and stability limitations and help them essentially get pain-free and back to doing the things that they love. So we're very big on if you feel like it's because of your age or you've got a past injury or you just feel like your body's holding you back, that we help you to figure out how to fix things so that you can get back to doing the things that you want to do.
Perfect. Now, a lot of guys, they know what they want to do job-wise, they can see the potential partners, but very few of them think they're not going to be able to get out of the car, they won't be able to chase their kids in the garden because of sins they've committed when they were younger.
Mm.
What is it about guys training indestructibly? We think we're never going to have any issues. Why do guys go hell for leather, not realizing they're, writing checks that their body can't cash?
It's the beginner gains. So your body can cope with a lot. And whenever you first start training, like it becomes addictive, and especially the mental aspect of it, people just love to push themselves, guys especially, and you do get away with a ton. Like my entire first year of training, I didn't pick up any injury that I was aware of. I was like, why can't I do this movement, or why can't I get into this position? That's a bit weird, but I never thought anything of it. And then it becomes all of a sudden it's like my knee's sore, oh now my shoulder's sore, now my back's sore, and then oh I'm just falling apart, and you start having all these bouncing pains, and it feels like it's all of a sudden, but your body gives you many warning signs, and you just don't listen at the start. You're so focused on, you do start to feel better, you do start to feel fitter, your cardiovascular health improves, you're like you notice your body starting to change shape and stuff, and you're like, this is amazing, this is great, and you don't think about the long-term effects of inefficient movement, essentially.
Because your mission now is to get people to listen to their body, but your origin
Mhm.
story, your superhero story, is the exact opposite. You know, you went from 23 not doing anything to like martial arts 6 days a week, taking on the world, changing things. Which Tom are we to listen to? Is it to the coach now or to the cautionary tale? Which version do you like to give to people?
I like to try and meet people where they're at. So if I was to try and go back in time to myself, I wouldn't want to remove that enthusiasm, and I wouldn't be like, "Oh, you need to be careful, you'll get hurt," because you do need that certain element of wanting to get better and wanting to push yourself as well. But trying to instill that into people of like, if you build a really good foundation, you could potentially miss a lot of roadblocks along the way and have a clearer path to being able to achieve your goals faster for one, but yet not have these setbacks that really demotivate you. Like I don't know about yourself, but anytime I did get injured, immediately the diet went out the window. I didn't care about anything anymore. And it was like, I immediately was like, well, might as well have a drink this weekend then. And yeah, maybe a couple of cigarettes and, sure, I can't train the way I want to. So I don't really need to worry at the minute. Whenever I get back to it, I'll, knock it all on the head again. And the more frequently that I did get injured, I just kept falling back into those old habits again. So yeah, it's trying to make people feel confident that they're going to do stuff that they won't need to do forever. So you don't need to stretch forever and you don't need to be careful forever. You need to lay a strong foundation that can be built on. And it doesn't take that long to do once you know what the right path is.
So when you think back to that young Tom, that the Devier, the suave version of Tom, that's still there, like we see in front of us. What was it that you were chasing then? Like were you more? Do we tie up in our self worth as much as achieving the goals? Is it becoming strong something that we need because it's a rite of passage? Do you think?
For me, because I spent my entire youth like avoiding fitness like the plague, I had no interest whatsoever. I wanted to play heavy metal and be a rock star, and people that went to the gym to me were weirdos, and I was like, why would you want to do that? And then I got quite overweight in my mid 20s, and I thought, well, I'm going to lose some weight here, and I just bought an exercise bike and just started doing sit ups every day, and that's what I thought was going to do it. And then
If
I don't
only,
know
yeah.
what. Yeah, I know.
No.
I got into the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, a lot, and I was like watching
Ah.
that, going, "Wow, this is cool! Like, this isn't like the computer games. This is real life stuff. This is amazing." So I found the martial arts gym, and I went there. And first lesson, didn't know my arm from my elbow and anything, and felt so confused, and was like, but seeing these guys doing this stuff, I was like, "This is amazing! Am I allowed to learn this?" So that was kind of my inspiration of like, hang on, I want to be the guy from the computer games. I want to be jumping around and doing spin kicks and doing all the cool moves and stuff. So that was really like, it was a complete lifestyle change to me. And it was for the first time in my life, apart from guitar, like a guitar, when I started learning guitar, I wanted to be better than anybody. So I would have practiced for like 5 to 7 hours a day. And I'm not even exaggerating. I would have practiced that long. And I took that same enthusiasm for wanting to catch up essentially into training. So you would have seen me there at the gym. As soon as I finished work, I was bang at the gym at 5:45, waiting for the first class to start. I did the first class, strength conditioning, and the next class was martial arts beginners. So I jumped in there, did the beginners classes, did that for months until I was allowed to go to the intermediate classes. And then I started getting to a point where I was like training for 4 hours in the evening and finishing up with sparring martial arts in the evening. And I was like loving life. And it was just, I just couldn't believe how different I felt. And then, my physical form changed. I started to look fitter, look leaner, and I thought I'm really onto something here. And then within that year, just everything started to hurt and it started to be all taken away from me.
Because it's certainly a horrible feeling into it. When I was doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and you go in and I can deadlift this, I can take on the world, I'm tough, and then they say put your knees over your head, like doing practice roll, and you're like, sorry, what? And
Yeah.
your body just goes, nah. You're stiff, you're sore, you're agony. You see the guys, they have like 6 packs and 6 packs, but they can barely get out of the car without a 10-minute warm up. what what did that do to you? Like, what version of you needed to die before you kind of went, oh, I need to get into shape. I need to stop making mobility this dirty secret.
It's like I didn't know at the time what was holding me back. I just thought, oh, my ground game's not good. Like I couldn't get into the position for triangles and stuff like that. Triangle chokes when you're trying to wrap your legs around someone's head essentially, and you need to put your own knee over your own foot. And I just could not get into that position. And I was like, that's a stupid technique. I can't do that. But I was secretly getting more and more frustrated. Like, why is this guy that's only started can do this and I can't do it? So that kind of spurred me on a little to start stretching a little and to start just trying to improve my fight game essentially. But it started to carry over as well whenever the gym I was training in, it was at the start just kind of general bodybuilding kind of training mixed with fighting training, mixed with we just deadlifted our faces off basically. It was great. Every week was one rep max week, and we just hammered ourselves, and it was such a fun time in my life, almost not knowing about proper periodization and stuff with training and things, because I was just like, where's the heavy thing? Let me lift it. You lifted what? Right, give me a go. And we just went at it, and it was so much fun. Um, but yeah, when we started into Olympic weightlifting, it requires a ton of mobility. And so I came across this thing called an overhead squat, where you have to be able to hold a barbell above your head and do a squat with it. And I moved about 2 inches down, and I was like, my shoulders, my back. I can't move. What? I can't even do this with the training bar, like a 15 kilo bar, and I can't do this movement. What's going on? And my friends that were more flexible were able to get down to these positions, and I was raging. I was like, "This is not. I can deadlift more than them. I'm stronger than them. This isn't right." So that kind of really spurred me on into trying to improve my squat mobility at first. But I kind of went at it the wrong way. I went from zero stretching to wrapping bands around myself and foam rolling for like 40 minutes and shoving myself into positions without any stability whatsoever. So that was kind of my first mistake. And my first introduction into the mobility world was that full on self massage and really deep passive stretches and trying to shove yourself into yoga positions that I just wasn't ready for. So my knees started to hurt even more. My back started to hurt even more. And I started to pick up even more injuries, even though to me back then I was doing all of the right things. And it just felt so unfair. So that was my first kind of mistake that I made.
So, what was that young Tom like? Like what was your kind of day job? Because I've seen you talk about how you hated your day job at that point, and you've said about how playing the guitar basically keeps you in that position that just makes the worst posture possible. Were you doing all the wrong stuff at that point? What were you doing in a day to day world that was really not helping your mobility, your ability to move like we should?
Yeah. On top of that, so I also worked in a betting office at the time. Um, so I was just sitting for 8, 9 hours a day, just taking bets all day for people, and just working at the till, and very rarely had to get up from the chair whatsoever. Like I sat beside the printer, so if I printed something, I could just grab it from beside me, and there's just everything was based around not needing to move whatsoever. So that my upper back was getting more and more locked up, my hips were getting locked up, and then yeah, I tried to combine that with then after sitting all day to try and go to a gym and jump around like an idiot, and it just did not go well. So the best thing I ever learned from that was like, even if you do have a job that does require you to sit a lot, if you get up first thing in the morning and just give yourself 5 minutes of movement and just get really deep into your joints, it is such a helpful thing to help you throughout the day, so that if you do train later on in the day, you're able to actually jump in, and it's not like the first time you've moved all day. So a lot of us don't realize now how little we move with our phones now and streaming services. I always say, like, you don't even have to get off the sofa to put a DVD in anymore. You just push the button. While saying that, you've got your subscription that you pay for, and then you have to pay for the thing that you want to watch on the subscription as well. Then you get to watch it, but you still don't have to get up. So that's kind of the issue that we all run into. You just move less and less, and you don't realize.
Because that is the thing. We could get dates sent to your house. We can get food sent to you. You barely need to move at all.
Yeah.
Is that the problem with a lot of guys? Is that we concentrate on that sort of tough side of life, but like you've said in other interviews, where we're not broken, our bodies are just confused. We just haven't got it used to moving in particular ways or understanding the patterns we need it to do. How did it help changing that side of, we can fix you, we just need to tidy up the patterns and get you moving back to the way you should be?
Yeah, it's this kind of, if you're not moving your joints fully and you're not doing that regularly, and then you go to the gym and you're trying to shove yourself down into deep squats with heavy weights, and the only time you're actually moving is with the weights, it's just too much. You can't expect something to be able to move properly if you haven't been doing gentle work with it first. So it's just that kind of making the mobility aspect of it a bit more important to you, because a lot of people will get obsessed with like their deadlift form, and how their squat form maybe looks and stuff, but nobody really looks to see like, is their hips moving the same side to side, or how their ankle flexibility is side to side, like are you twisting when you squat, all of this kind of stuff. So it's so important to, first thing in the day especially, is get the joints moving like joints, because that's what they want to do, and that's what actually allows you to do the fun stuff. So the people that the kind of first thing that was highlighted to me was the ones that did the traditional martial arts, like the proper like kung fu stuff. They were doing their forms for their martial arts. So they were doing deep Cossack squats. They were having to get into long lunge positions and hold them in really deep positions. So they were constantly getting their joints moving fully and working on their stability at the same time. Anytime we took those same guys from the mat over to the strength and conditioning part, it was like, here, try this overhead squat. And they just could do it right away. Never seen it
Mm.
before. Could just lift the bar and even be able to put weight on it. And me as a coach back then, I was like, no, 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 you can't put weight on that. No, you'll hurt yourself. You've never done it before. And these guys were looking at me going, this isn't hard for me. And I was just like, how are you able to do this right away? It just doesn't make any sense. And what I know now is that a lot of traditional martial arts is what MMA misses out on now, is the traditional martial arts are essentially the forms and the katas and all that their stuff. They're to reset your body. They're to help you to recover from the punishment of training. Whereas all we do now, especially in MMA, is the punishment, and there's no side to it. So it's so important to try and bring that aspect in. So that's kind of what I try to do with my work. Is the program I designed, the Simplistic Mobility Method. That to me is like the human body's form. So it's, if you do that regularly, it's like you're greasing the groove, you're dusting your corners, you're making sure nothing's left out, and then that's ultimately how you can basically do anything that you want to, whether it be running, whether it be CrossFit, MMA, whatever. If your joints are moving properly, your spine's moving properly, you're going to run into a lot less problems.
Because the more I look into your work, the more I see it as like mobility, longevity, flexibility, health. It's almost like a love language to yourself. You're saying, I'm going to be here for my kids. I'm going to be here to get out of the car when I want to go up flight steps without breathing out my arse. I want to be here for my future self, partner, and kids. Is that a fair way of looking at it? We need to get guys to understand that this isn't just that 5 minutes annoyance that you do at the start of a class. This will keep you fit for life.
Yeah, yeah. You just don't realize how much things can catch up on you. So I, in the weirdest way, almost see it as fortunate that I got as badly injured as I did when I was so young, because the warning signs that I got and the pain I was getting, I just rested every time it happened and was like, well, when it goes away, I'll get back to training. And I never tried to fix myself. And the more I did that, the longer those rests got, and the more severe each injury started to get as well. And from knowing what I know now, there could have been a point where if I hadn't injured myself as badly as I did, I probably just would have went, you know what, this isn't for me, maybe, because I would have just been like, I would have accepted a level of normal pain and just been like, well, I guess I can't do this. But because I injured my back so badly and couldn't walk and put any weight in my left leg, it was like, I don't want to live like this. I can't even make a cup of coffee without pain. Like I wake up
Mm.
in the morning, I'm in pain. I can't walk down the stairs. And my wife's pregnant. How am I going to support her? How am I going to hold a child? How am I going to play with my child? What am I supposed to do here? And the fear from that was the thing that triggered me to actually fix it. And I don't like seeing people get to that stage. I want to try and get in there and be like, no, no, look, you're getting a bit of back pain now, you're getting a bit of knee pain now, but if you don't address it, it can get much worse. And you don't realize how horrible your life can be. So if you've ever seen any of my content, I'm quite a silly person, a happy person, and jump around and do silly things, and I'm so positive. But if you had seen me then when I was at my worst, like, you couldn't be around me. I wasn't a nice person to speak to. I would have snapped at you. I was angry. I was angry at people for feeling okay. It was like, how dare other people feel okay? Look at all them people in the gym being able to train and I can't do it. That's not fair. And I was just such a resentful person. And it was because of pain. And I was scared. I thought I was going to be that way forever. And now I meet people in their 50s and 60s that maybe picked up injuries like I did before I got badly injured in their 30s, and they just stopped training, and they didn't play with their kids, and they didn't maybe pursue a career that they wanted to do because they were like, I can't do that because of my back, or I can't do that because of, X, Y, and Z. And they held themselves back. And then after working with them for a few months, they're like, I feel 100%. I feel better than I even did in my 20s. Like, this is incredible. And it's those lost years that I am like, they genuinely upset me when someone's telling me their story. And it's like they didn't have to live their life in the way that they did. So that's why it's such a mission to me now to share this to so many people, because it can just happen and you don't think it ever will, but it does. It really does. And pain is an awful, awful thing.
Because that's something that really drew me to your content. As much as I love like you as a personality, I love the fact that you talk about going through the reps, the disc issues, the pain, the hurt, etc. You always see everybody's highlight story. You never see that thing of them hobbling down the steps and barely being able to walk and can barely squat down and almost crapping themselves. You never see these kind of things because you've said the best injury is the one that doesn't ever happen, but men try to train at 25, like they forget they're going to 45, and the debt collector will come for them.
Hmm.
Why? How do we explain that to men? Because a lot of them will hide their, they don't want to look at lacrosse balls, foam rollers. They'd rather show you their sex toy collection than their rehabilitation toys. That came out wrong. How can we get people to understand that pain is feedback? It's not a betrayal as such.
Yeah, it's trying to wrap it into their goals, and there's no logical way that I see now of, look, if I don't make your body work better as a body, there's no way it can't benefit your training. It means you'll recover better. It means you're going to feel stronger. You know, if if your joints don't feel safe, you can't produce your own level of true strength. There's some people that I've given instant PRs to with like their shoulder press just from opening their upper back and getting their shoulders stabilized in a warm up. And they're like, they can't believe it. Or people that have had like one really bad shoulder for a long time, and we've done a few exercises with them and just got the joint to feel safe, and their nip and their shoulders went away immediately, and they've been able to just press a heavy weight, and it's just mind-blowing. But to me, it's like, well, yeah, you take the handbrake off. If the joints feel safe, the handbrake comes off, you can actually use your own true strength. I didn't make you stronger. That strength was already there. I just took away the handbrake essentially because I made the joint feel safe. So people are just, if I said to you right now, I don't want you to bend your elbow past 90 degrees for like 6 months, you'd look at me like I was crazy. Yet,
Mm.
so many people are doing that with their hips and with their knees and with their ankles and their neck. They're not like, when's the last time you fully turned your head left, right, up, down, side to side as far as you could to see what your range of motion's like? You just don't think to check this stuff. And, unless you're crossing the road, you don't really have a reason to turn your head. It has to be made a part of your life that you're just flossing your joints. You're just making sure things are moving well. And that's the stuff that's going to make you stronger. And how I try to tie that in with people is like, look, you've had a couple of setbacks, you've had a couple of injuries. Do you want to have like 2 years of amazing training that you don't need to take any breaks off and really see what your body's properly capable of? Let's do this mobility work. Let's fix things first, and then we'll go from there. And it's just such a sensible thing to do, especially for competitive athletes. After a competition, when you come back into the gym, you don't just go right back to your one rep maxes again. Start off with a mobility phase, then go into your building muscle phase, get your reps in, then go into your strength phase. And then when it's coming back up to the next competition, that's when you want to start pushing the numbers again. So for a lot of people, especially that don't have coaches, you kind of just be like, well, I lifted that heavy last week, I should be able to lift more this week. It just doesn't work like that. So it's all about getting the idea of the foundation and what it can do for someone, getting someone excited about that. That's what I try to do.
So how do you get them into that mindset? Because a lot of guys will take pain personally, but a lot of them will use it almost like a badge of honor. Like, oh, I used to go to the gym and I used to lift X, Y, Z. I can't bend down and tie my own shoelaces, but I used to do this kind of thing. How do you make somebody understand and get them excited in that sense?
It's kind of so like one of the reasons I post like silly videos of me doing mad stuff and all is just literally to be like, look, there's more stuff out there. And I don't lift as heavy now as I did when I was in my early 30s. but I still feel awesome. I'm still learning new things, and I focus more on like the gymnastic side of things and learning new skills. So a lot of people, if you only ever squatted and benched and deadlift, you just think, well, that's what I do when I go to the gym. That's what everybody does, and it's like it's not really. There's so many other things out there, like the gymnastics rings, and you know, learning how to do fun bodyweight movements, animal movements, and combining that with your kind of bodybuilding techniques, and yeah, still doing the lifts that you enjoy too, but just having a more complete program that respects how your body moves more. It gives you a different level of energy. It really does, because a lot of really hard training drains your body, whereas when I train now, I like to feel like it's giving me energy. I don't like to leave the gym now feeling like I'm completely beat up and I need 3 days sleep to catch up. So
Mm.
it's just trying to have that mindset shift of, yeah, if you've accomplished stuff that you wanted to do in your past, like think more about longevity, think more about being able to still train in your 50s and 60s and 70s, rather than just keep trying to push yourself into the ground essentially. So it's a mindset shift.
And are you sort of almost glad now when you think back, that when you started late, so you didn't have these sort of preconceived notions of chasing PRs just because your ego needed it as much, like when you were really young and you completely screwed yourself. You did get hurt. So now you can sort of empathize with the people you're coaching, that you get to see, because you've lived the story, that you get to teach the story and help others find their path.
Yeah, well, I did go through my chasing PRs phase. So that was the funniest thing, because I was first going through it and like trying to hit these numbers and things, but my mobility was holding me back. I kept forcing myself to try and get these heavier squat numbers, and I wanted to hit a snatch and a clean and jerk PR and all this here stuff. And after I got really badly injured, over the course of a year, it took me to get fully pain free again. When I started feeling like I wanted to start training again, I was like, well, I'm just going to be careful now. And I started training, and my numbers crept up faster than they ever did. And I wasn't sore the next day. When I squatted, my hips felt awesome. Like I felt my quads, my adductors, my hamstrings, my glutes all equally. When I used to squat, I used to have knee pain and back pain the next day. And I thought that was normal. But after fixing myself, when I got back to training, I surpassed all of my original numbers faster than I ever had before. So
Mm.
to me, I was like, hang on, I'm onto something here. This is different. And yeah, like I said, the recovery as well was so much better. Because imagine if you're always compensating, it's draining, it hurts your joints, and it's more tiring on you. Whereas if you move efficiently all of the time, your joints are going to be a lot happier, your muscles are going to be a lot happier, and you're not going to feel beat up all of the time as well. So after I train now, I'll generally finish with full range of motion joint movements. So I don't actually do deep stretches at all anymore, or like any type of, like really deep yoga stretches or anything like that. When I finish my training sessions, I would have a resistance band and I would do movements for my shoulders and full ranges of motion. And I would do like different lunge variations. So like extra training. So it's, you're getting stronger, but you're also moving the joints respectfully as well. So yeah, for me, then I came back and surpassed all my PRs. I started doing, just for fun, I would have done CrossFit workouts like 5 in a row back to back with my friend. He would come around on like a
Jeez.
Thursday morning. Yeah. And we would just be like, right, what was the CrossFit Open for 2016 or whatever? I was like, okay, this, and this. Right. Okay. And we'd set up all the barbells and the skipping ropes and the dumbbells and to have the whole gym to ourselves. And we're like, right, let's go, timer on. And for like an hour and a half, we would do these workouts back to back and just try and hammer each other essentially. And I felt great. And I was like, I couldn't believe the difference in how my body can feel from training, just from going through that period of having to fix myself. Like it did take me a year, but I don't know what I know now back then. So that's why I think it took me much longer. I think I could have done it much faster if I had known what I know now.
Because I've seen you talk about how, like, when you had your MRI, it came after you were pain free. I think it was a year after the sort of the pain went. What would have changed? Do you think? If you look at it now, that if that scan had come first, you know, if you'd been told immediately how bad the damage was, would you have changed, or are you almost glad in a way that our NHS is slow to catch up? It gave you that ability to learn this for yourself and find out what worked.
It was the weirdest thing. Like if I had read that MRI when I had the worst pain I was in, you wouldn't be talking to me now. Like I would have stayed in that betting office. I would have stopped coaching and I would have stopped training altogether. I would have been living off painkillers. Um, I think the trickiest thing was that I was going to the doctor and like I was still able to walk into the doctor's office even though I wasn't in intense pain. And I think I maybe downplayed it a bit too much or something. I was like, look, no, no, I'm really sore all of the time. And, rather than saying, like when I wake up in the morning, I can't bear the weight of my own leg. Like if you offered to cut my leg off, I would take you up on that.
Yeah.
I never really said any of that to the doctor. So I think because I was so young, they were kind of like, it's back pain, it'll go away. And, like I said, I was just really playing it down. So that's why it took the year for me to get my MRI scan. Now, saying that, here's a side tangent for you. So the initial one that I got was the L4, L5 disc protrusion and the L5S1 disc extrusion and the impingement on the S1 nerve root. And so that was kind of why all my symptoms were down my left side. I can't feel my left glute. I had drop foot in my left foot, so I couldn't lift my foot up, which I never even bothered to tell the doctor about. I just dragged my foot behind me for a few weeks. Eventually, it did clear up. I was very lucky that it did clear up itself. But yeah, I think because I downplayed my symptoms to the doctor, that's why it took so long. But yeah, when I went to get it, the morning that I went for my MRI scan, I deadlifted 200 kg that morning, and then I got my appointment with the doctor. See them on like the Wednesday, and they were like, "Oh, it says here, Mr. Morrison, you're a personal trainer. You're going to need to think of a career change because these readings aren't very good, and you're going to need to be careful. You shouldn't be lifting weights and all this here kind of stuff." And I was standing there going, I'm fine. I'm doing CrossFit later. Like, are you sure you've got the right MRI scan? And that's what really sent me on this path of going, well, hang on. This doesn't make any sense. How could I possibly have structural injuries like that? Like, I got my MRI scan completely 100% pain free. I'm moving better than I did in my teens. Like, this doesn't make any sense. And that's when I started to look into the correlation between structural injuries and pain. And there isn't one. People can have mangled spines and be totally pain free. People can have perfect looking spines in MRI scans and barely be able to stand up straight. So I was like, oh, hang on, maybe there's more to pain than people seem to understand. And then now, so 10 years later, last, actually, it must be near 2 years ago now. But anyway, whatever, around 10 years later, I got a bad pain in my hip. And I thought, maybe because of my nerve impingement, I haven't been able to feel my glute properly for a few years. Maybe my hip's actually starting to wear down. So I thought, just out of the interest, because of what I do, I went and got updated MRI scans. And because it hurt my neck really badly in the past as well, and my shoulder, I thought, I'm going to get them done just as well. So I paid privately to get all new MRI scans done. And what came back was that there was like little bone growths in my hips and like nothing that bad, nothing too bad to work with. But it started to show that I actually have arthritis in my spine. So inflammatory arthritis had been attacking my spine. So you could see that like there was bits that had been attacked and broken down and tried to heal up again. And my initial L5S1 extrusion has now become a protrusion. So it's improved, but 2 levels above that. So I now have 4 small lumbar herniations. So my spine is just constantly trying to straighten. It's losing its curves and breaking down. So I have ankylosing spondylitis. So I got the gene test for that. So even though I have that, for the last 10 years, I've been completely pain free and have no symptoms even standing here now talking to you. So my MRI scan reads like someone that's degenerative of all kinds with so much damage, yet I'm totally fine.
I love that that part of your story was like most guys are probably going, yeah, I would go and deadlift first before I go to the doctor. Get the PR in and then go to the doctor. I love how that's our kind of mindset. Do you think that's the problem with guys is we'd rather, rather than show that 5 minute of weakness, we'd rather hide or not admit to what we're saying. We'd rather not tell the full story or really let ourselves feel that self analysis and going, oh, that's sore. Oh, that's twisted. I can't move that. I can't change that.
Yeah, I think especially for men, you don't want to appear weak, and there's so many times as well while I was at my worst, I wouldn't speak to my wife about anything as well. And, she helped get me through it initially when it first happened. There was one morning I came down the stairs, like it took me forever to get out of bed and turn and twist, and then forever to get to the landing, and then like 10 full minutes just to walk down the stairs one step at a time while nearly crying. And I was just standing in the kitchen, and she came in and just said to me, "What's wrong?" And I just said, "I wish I hadn't woke up this morning. I can't live like this anymore." And that was one of the only times I really broke down at her. And it was awful. There was like a weird relief, but then I was also embarrassed at the same time of, I want to be the strong husband that provides, and
Mm.
this is just a word that I do not use lightly at all. Like, I hate this word, and I think it's the most awful thing you can call someone is pathetic. To call someone pathetic, but that's how I felt. I felt pathetic, and like I just didn't want to live anymore because I just felt useless. Like I couldn't serve anybody, and how could I provide for a family if this is the way I was? Like, like I was shouting at my wife. She was offering to help me like with my shoes and my socks and stuff, and I was like, "No, get away from me, get away from me!" And I would have just grit my teeth and cried through it to try and get myself dressed in the morning. So, you know, there's a big thing of pride there, I think, and yeah, it's just such embarrassment, I think, and you just don't want to admit to anybody that you're weak, essentially, but it can happen.
Yeah, and it's amazing how quickly it can happen. It's like how you can go
Mhm.
from being the highs in the gym to suddenly barely being able to move without almost crying or worse.
Yeah.
What did being that level of pain teach you? That success never could. What did it really, like, because a lot of guys are sitting there going, yeah, I've got a bit of an ache, but it's not that bad. I'm not like crawling out of bed kind of stage. But what do we need to know about pain or understand about that to really say fix it now, or you're going to get
Mhm.
screwed later on?
There's a level of, like, I'm sure you heard many times from many people before that people say, like, everything's connected. You do not realize just how connected things are until your entire body screams at you anytime you try to move something. If I move my knee in ever so slightly, I felt how that was connected to my lower back and my hip. If I turned my head a certain way, I could feel how my lower back would actually be involved in that motion. Every time I took a step, I felt how the muscles shifted from one side of the body to the other side of the body being on. And I just couldn't believe how much everything affected everything else. But now I've turned that around. Like, I have amazing body awareness. I can fire any muscle I want to at any point. I'm able to, like, to the point of I want to do a muscle activation drill, I can almost immediately make myself cramp because I'm able to put so much into it. And it's just something I never would have learned if it wasn't for the pain. So pain is the ultimate teacher. And even now, the weirdest thing is, so my nerve impingement is to my left side, but my balance, there was the side that I had the most extreme pain on, but my balance is much better on my left leg. So even the foot that went numb for me and I couldn't move, and the glute that's significantly smaller than the other one, that's the side that had the most pain. And that's actually the side that I could balance all day long on and do all kinds of mad, crazy stuff, like even single leg deadlift 100 kg on that leg for 3 reps. And like, yeah, and it's just like pain taught me that stuff of how to keep things connected, and it's just like I said, nothing I could have learned if I hadn't went through that.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
Because Jenny has hypermobility syndrome, where her body kind of works against the normal route it should go. Did that also help because you saw you built it as much for her as yourself, that you saw your pain, but you also understood how the body can actually work in the exact opposite way of what most people would come to you for?
Yeah, so Jenny, whenever she moved here, she joined the gym that I was in, and she could do all kinds of mad, crazy yoga stuff and everything. Yeah, so Jenny moved here, and she joined the gym that I was working at, and she, similar to me, was, or not similar to me, but she was having like joint pain all the time, and I was like, "But you're so flexible. This doesn't make any sense." So from my learning experience, it was like, well, if you're inflexible and you fix that and you improve your stability, you'll be okay. But Jenny appeared to have all of the flexibility and more, and even some more. And I was like, well, how are you sore? This doesn't make any sense. And then that's when I discovered about hypermobility, and it's a connective tissue disorder. So essentially, instead of whenever she goes into some positions, instead of the muscles kind of supporting things, it's like the ligaments and the tendons and everything just kind of get to be pushed into positions that are a little bit too much for them. She has dislocated her shoulders multiple times. She had to get ankle surgery in the past and stuff as well. But like, you had this incredibly fit girl that couldn't tolerate walking around town for like 15 minutes without her shins and her ankles and her knees hurting. So I started to use like the techniques that I used with my extreme nerve pain with her, of like really just loading things gently and moving through positions and focusing on actually being able to create tension in a safe way. And like, so one of the things with CrossFit, one demand is like, that you're doing box jumps for reps. And if you're someone that's hypermobile, that is not a good idea whatsoever. But ultimately, after working together, like, we started off with just like a small plate. We started getting her to jump and just step down, jump and step down. And then eventually she got to the stage where she could do box jumps. And then over the course of 7 years later, she was learning like how to do backflips, like full back tucks, where standing and just going flip and landing on her feet again.
Bloody
Like,
hell.
yeah, from not being able to walk properly to getting to that stage was just incredible. So hypermobility, I really do think a lot more people have it than they realize. But yeah, the training around it isn't great yet. It's getting better, but for people understanding how to work with it, rather than, oh, you've got hurt and, oh, you're just an awkward client, now you just get hurt all the time, go away, I can't be bothered with you, kind of thing. It's like, no, these people are probably going to have joint pain and experience tweaks of things again and again. So we need to figure out how to build them up safely, for one. But if they do happen to have that their knee hurts a bit, then we go, okay, we're going to focus on the shoulders now for a bit. And then if the shoulder hurts, like, okay, we're going to work on the knees for a bit and try and build it all together. So if you've ever seen Jenny's Instagram, like, she's incredible at doing handstands, and she's got labrum tears in both of her shoulders. Like I said, she dislocated her shoulders multiple times, but you see her in the gym. Like, I can barely keep up with her. The weights she's lifting, she can deadlift 145 kg. I think it is. Like, it's absolutely crazy, and she's tiny. It makes no sense. Don't tell her I said she's tiny though, because she's massive. That's her goal. She's a beast. She's massive. She's trying to get as big as possible, but yeah, working with Jenny like just taught me so much about the other side of things. So I kind of came from a background of like, I thought I was strong, but I had zero flexibility. And Jenny, her background was more like she had all the flexibility. And anytime she tried to do strong stuff, she got hurt because there was too much kind of there that had no control. So that's the kind of idea. That's where that flong and sexible came from, because you want to be both strong and flexible as well, and just have a good level of both, and that's your foundation essentially. So yeah, working with Jenny, it helped me learn so much about the other side of it as well, because I thought, just from my own experience, like, oh, if you're inflexible you get hurt, and it's like, no, if you're too flexible you can get hurt as well. And what I started to realize was the exact same techniques worked for both of us. We just had to approach them slightly differently. So for me, if I'm trying to get into a position, I'm trying to get deeper into it and really relax into it and, try and release things. Whereas for Jenny, it's like, well, she can already get into the position. So she needs to come up slightly out of it and try and be stable in it and actually build strength there, and then go back into the end range, trying to keep the tension. And that's ultimately what's helped her to get so far with all of her training and stuff. And she's helped so many people around the world now as well. And, give people with hypermobility hope of like, oh, here, no, maybe I can actually get stronger here, because it's not a straightforward path. Similar with nerve pain, you get flare-ups. If your inflammation goes up, you can just have a back pain flare-up, or say you get stressed because it's such a strong feeling physically. If you get mentally stressed, it can bring on that physical pain again. And it's understanding that and not being afraid to move through that is so important. So same with hypermobility. If something hurts, it's like trying to move through things and make yourself feel safe again, so that you're not stopping completely. Because that's the worst thing that someone with hypermobility could do, would be to just stop training completely, because then they're going to lose even more stability. And then you just get hurt from doing nothing. And that's the biggest thing I've learned over the years, is like, I can't see any logical way that you could ever rest yourself to getting stronger. It'll just never happen,
No. Because that's the thing, isn't it? We all want to start go, oh, well, I'll take a week off. I'll take a couple of days off before I get back to it. That's enough to fix like that agony that's in my shoulder, or I can't lift my arm or my head, but yeah, that'll fix it. I love that you've had that sort of that story with Jenny, that you've learned like the versions, because that's what I think makes your podcast so good. Apart from all the in jokes and stuff, it's that bit of, JP has his story, you have your story, Shannon comes in, that Jenny has her version, but you never make it like the diagnosis doesn't become your identity. You just go, well, this is how we adapt it. This is how we fix this is how we change it for people. How do we stop a diagnosis becoming an identity? How do we stop going, oh, well, that's me ruined? How do we get guys out of that mindset and go, hey, Tom's got a cracking method here that's helped over 65,000 people. You can change, you can be built differently.
Yeah, a diagnosis of some kind. It's just information, just like pain. It's a signal. It's information to have, and it can influence what you need to do at the start. But if you get everything around the area feeling stronger, it really does support a lot of stuff. So we've met people that have been told they've got the knees of the 90-year-old and like no cartilage and stuff and all of these things. And it's like, well, every now and again it gets a wee bit sore, so stick a strap on it, but they're fine, and it's we're very privileged to be in that place that, like, I get emails and messages from people every day going, oh, I did this exercise and it really helped me. I've got arthritis, I've got a hip replacement, I've got a knee replacement, I've got all these things and I'm feeling okay. And I'm like, amazing, this is great. And that was never my goal in the past. All I wanted to do in the past was be a strength coach and teach people how to weightlift and things like that. But the more that I worked with, that I started to realize, is like, I've got clients that have been with me here for 5-6 years, and they're still training and they still feel good. And other people I'm seeing that did things for 6 months or a year and they just packed it in and gave up. And the strength element of it was the thing that helped them the most. So that whenever you have a diagnosis of some kind, it's just a thing of like, okay, I've got that. What can I do to help negate that? So with me having the ankylosing spondylitis, it's like, okay, I've got inflammatory arthritis. So what can I do to keep that at bay as best I can? So diet's a big factor, sleep's a big factor, and moving regularly is such an important thing for me. One of the symptoms for ankylosing spondylitis is supposed to be that you're really stiff when you wake up first thing in the mornings, like you're almost like your bones have been fused. But because I've made it a lifestyle habit of, when I wake up, the first thing I do is start to wiggle around in an assisted squat and twist my spine and move my shoulders and move my neck as soon as I wake up. I now wake up no stiffness because my body now knows, oh, when Tom wakes up, Tom moves, so we better be on it. So there's so many things you can do to offset stuff that makes such a difference. And that's kind of the way I call it playing life in hard mode. So if you have some kind of a diagnosis that is going to make things harder, it's like, great, we're playing in hard mode then. I don't care. I'm going to do more then to make things easier for myself and be able to live the life that I want to live.
Because that's why I'm a big fan of yours, because everywhere I was going, it was like you had to take 40 minutes of this. You had to go and get up like an hour early and stretch and foam roll and, like basically make peace with your savior and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, hey, I just want to have a 5-minute thing that I can do in the morning and go on. And then I found your stuff and, I was thinking, this guy's in jeans and he's fitter, more mobile, can do all these things. And I'm sitting there barely able to squat to the toilet. Right, I'm following this guy. What is it like, guys that do, like, why do we overcomplicate this, and where are the habits that would actually make a difference in most guys' lives?
I don't think people realize the value of things compounding over time. 5 minutes every day equals 35 minutes a week. So that's an extra sneaky gym session in. But the great thing about the shorter bursts of things is that it's more manageable to stick to, yes, but it also helps you more in a neurological type way too. So say you wanted to learn how to juggle, you're not going to juggle for 2 hours one day a week. You would lose your rag, something shocking, and you'd be so cheesed off with it, and you wouldn't make any progress. Yeah. But if you were able to stick to it just 5 minutes per day, every day, your brain starts to go, well, this is this thing we're doing again. Oh, this is nice. And you don't get to that point that you're frustrated with it or annoyed. And it's just that constant repetition of working on things, And so for me now, my kind of habits that I've built up over the years is the 5 minutes first thing in the morning as soon as I wake up. That's a non-negotiable for me. I always do it. And then throughout the day, I will find myself just wiggling on things. I call it the have a wiggle kind of principle. And it's just, if I can put my leg up on it, I'm going to put my leg up on it and give my hips a wee wiggle, I think people that don't shift around and and fidget during the day are weird to me. It's like why you've been still for how long? What are you doing? So another really one nice one that I like as well. After dinner for like 20 minutes, I pick like a skill that I'm working on at the time. So either like working on deeper hip stretches or some kind of shoulder mobility or handstands or something like that. That wee 20 minutes after dinner, I don't need to get a sweat on. I'm doing skill work, so I can just do a few reps of something or a few handstand holds or something like that there. And it's just that little bit of extra work in that I don't even include as a thing. Like to me, working on handstands, for example, would be just like going for a walk. So walking is something else that I really love as well. But one of the most beneficial things you can do if you do love to walk is to have a really deep hip stretch before you go, like get really deep into a squat, move around, do a couple of lunges, and stretch your toes and stuff as well before you go out for your walk. Makes it so much more beneficial. Basically turns walking into a corrective exercise for you. So yeah, moving your joints fully is so important. So for people that are active that are maybe listening to this, you have to look at running and cycling and even swimming, for example. I get a lot of hate on this online because everyone's like, oh, swimming is a full joint movement. But it's like, well, you're not fully going into deep knee flexion while you're swimming, are you? It's not how you swim. So
No.
everything that we do and everything that we enjoy is partial range joint movements. So it is up to us to add full range joint movements to complement what we want to do. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. It really, really doesn't. Like I said, leg up on something, fully bend the knee, fully extend your hip at the back, rotate your hips, like the 90-90 position. Everyone's bound to know the 90-90 position by now. Just getting that every day for a couple of reps and, twisting your legs from side to side. You can make everything feel 1,000 times better just with a couple of minutes every day.
I love that because a lot of guys will say, like, how do you improve? Okay, we've got to get stronger. We've got to get like this. We've got to build more muscle here and do this kind of thing. But you're actually saying, just use the body into the way that it's meant to do. Like, get back into these kind of movement patterns and, just don't overcomplicate it. Just have a
Yeah.
wiggle in it. I love that. That's going
I,
to stick in my head now.
Yeah, and I can make any strongman, any power lifter, any CrossFitter, even professional footballers, anything. I can make them sweat and shake and be like, "Oh, I've never done this before. This is so hard," with just their body weight through learning proper tension. One of the other courses we have is called Ultimate Core, and it kind of teaches people how to brace properly, how to create more tension through their middle as well, and it's just not something that's taught normally. Because if you look at someone that's in a plank, for example, so a plank or a side plank, you look at them, they're like, yep, that's a plank or a side plank. That's great. Their hips are off the ground. They must be doing it right. But if you're not actually engaging the muscles in the proper way and you're not really shaking when you're doing the movement, like, and you feel like your ribs are being constricted because you're bracing so hard, you're not really getting the benefits from it. And that's kind of what I noticed with a lot of people. You can get strong wrong for a long time, and then those things start to catch you. And it's like you've only been bracing because of a heavy weight. So you've only actually braced because the weight's made you brace. You're not bracing to lift the weight. There's a big, big difference there.
I love that. I never thought about that. That a lot of us use the weight to get into that position where it's actually we're not using our body. God, that actually explains a lot about me in the gym. But because a lot of guys would come to you only, after they've realised they built their house on shaky foundations. They've got the pain, they've got the aches and kind of things. How do we start fixing this? Because a lot of us will come and go, I've got this, it's a stabby pain. We don't understand really what it is. I mean, I've got, like, say, a shoulder impingement just now. How would you start self-diagnosing that or teaching me how to do that and then how to fix it? Where does your mind go in that process?
Well, usually, especially, so we'll stick with the shoulder. Sure, anytime you've got something going on with the shoulder, you immediately gravitate to, I need a shoulder exercise. You don't necessarily think, oh, maybe my ribs aren't moving well here. Maybe my thoracic spine isn't moving well. And imagine if your upper back is really rounded and you try and move your shoulder in any which way, it's going to feel suffocated on itself. It's not going to move right. Whereas if you actually can put your shoulders into a good position, it's like, now all of a sudden the shoulder blade can glide, things can actually move properly. And then you want to look at the other things that can compensate too. So for a lot of people, the neck. If your neck's really stiff, it's going to pull things up. So then again, you're going to run into an impingement sensation. So you've got to look at the body as a whole. You can't just go, well, it's sore here, I need the exercise for here. So in
Yeah.
terms of shoulder issues, You got to go through the upper back first, really improve that range of motion with the upper back. You got to calm the neck down and stop it from overpowering things and tightening things up. And then you've got to go into your shoulder exercises after that. And you've got to go through full scapular control, and you've got to go through the arm movements as well. And you need to start using movements that are a greater range of motion. So one of the ones as well that I get a lot of hate on for online is when I shouted like the banded external rotation exercise that a lot of people do. It's like one of the most famous physiotherapy exercises in the world. And I see people doing that, and it's like, you've got a joint that can basically go 360, and you're, I don't know, practicing to open door handles with it. It's like, it's not enough. So
Hmm.
shoulders are your most mobile joints in your body. They're able to do so many things. So you need to break it down that way. So your thoracic spine, it should extend and it should rotate well. Your neck, you need to move it in all the different ways it can, flexion, extension, and lateral flexion, extension, and rotation as well, and even combination of those two. And then with the shoulders, you need to take your scaps through protraction, retraction, elevation, and depression. And then with the shoulders, you've got to go through your flexion, extension, internal rotation, external rotation, adduction, and abduction. It sounds like a lot, but I can basically get you to do that with a circle, like just doing an arm circle. And it's bringing the control into it and actually understanding what it should feel like and being able to pause in different positions and like not let your elbows join in as well. So one of the exercises I love is called scap circles. And that's when you're on all fours and you try and draw a big circle with your shoulder blades essentially.
Well,
And so many people really struggle to do that. And it's like they're doing all of these weird naff isolated exercises. And I'm going, you can't make circles with your shoulders. What are you doing? And it's like, that's where you've got to start. You got to start with the easier stuff and unload it as well. And that's how you can start to essentially, with the thoracic spine, the neck stuff, you're thinking about clearing the space. Then the shoulder stuff, you're bringing back the stability and the confidence again. And that's what will, like, 9.910 out of 10 times take away a shoulder impingement essentially. I've even met people that got subacromial space like decompression, like a surgery to shave away parts of bone to try and help with their shoulder impingement, and they
hmm.
had never been shown an upper back stretch and they still had pain after the surgery. And then like literally a couple of weeks time of showing them and then working on them right things and a few banded exercises, they're like, the pain's gone, it's great. So it's just so hard to know sometimes, and because you're not sore maybe in your ribs or whatever, you don't think there's anything wrong there. So it's treating the body as a whole. Same thing goes for the hips and lower back pain. If you fix your hips, generally you're going to get rid of your back pain and your knee pain.
I love that. I never even thought about that because a lot of what I've been doing is kind of like lying there with the arm coming out here like this, and I'd hear a crack and go, ooh. Or, then others were saying, no, you do this, you bring it back and twist it here. And this one said you'd lift up here. And I was like, what the? Have we forgotten how to understand our bodies? That we just outsource it to other people? We're no longer a student of our own bodies?
I think one of the funniest things, have you ever seen online, sometimes it'll flash up of like gymnastics warm-ups and like school warm-ups from like the 70s, and they're doing all these normal natural movements, and some
Yeah.
of them that I teach today now, it was when the foam rollers came in and the lacrosse balls, and everyone started getting so technical and scientific and shouting out all the names of the muscles and everything like that. And it's like we got too smart that we forgot how to move. And that is the biggest problem. It's like we're trying to get so isolated on figuring out exactly which muscle is the problem that we're not moving the other 600. So your body has over 600 muscles. It's never a one muscle problem ever. And sure, you can be weak at pulling, weak at pushing in certain motions and things, or have things that you're not as good at as other things. That's fine. But if you're trying to blame all of your problems on one muscle or one diagnosis, or like say, you've got a little bit of an extra bone growth or something, or a little bit of stenosis in your spine, something like that, you're trying to blame everything on that. It's like you're not just one thing, you're a collective of things. And that's why you need to have complete full body movements.
I love that. And we also need to get you to sign up to your mobility method. I know we're coming up to their time because it feels like 10 minutes, honestly. So I'd love to do another couple with you because there's so many things I'd love to get into. But imagine you had two blokes just now, same age, same starting point, like say if it's two young kids just starting the gym, one starts treating his body like something he'll deal with later. He's chasing the PR still. The other starts investing in it. Signs up to your method, etc. Fast forward at 20 years. what do they look like? What do they gain? What do they lose? What would you want every guy listening to this to understand? That yes, it will come to you. The debt collector will catch up with your body, and say, "This is how you've treated your body." How do we end up becoming one of them and not the other one?
If everything works as it should do, it's like you've had your car serviced and it's going to be okay. Whereas if you don't work on this stuff and your check engine light comes on and you put a piece of duct tape over it, it's your car's going to break down and then it's going to cost you a lot of money. And I think the weirdest thing with us as humans is that because it's just you and it's not your car, it's not something financial to you, it's like you'll put up with it. And that's not right. You are the most important thing in the world. You should look after yourself because if you can't look after yourself, then you can't look after others, which means that then you can't serve others, you can't help others, which then stops you being useful. So your training in the gym needs to be that it makes you someone that can be depended on. It makes you someone that's strong and it makes you like not only physically strong, but mentally strong as well. And if you can get a really good run on a good foundation for 20 plus years with having very few setbacks because you put the pre work in, like that's a good life. That's a life that I want people to have.
Mm.
Whereas if you end up a year down the road picking up a bunch of injuries, resting for a while, training 6 months again later, oh, here's a new injury, and then just getting cheesed off with it, it's not a lot of fun. It's really not. And life is supposed to be fun. Life is very short. You want it to be as fun as possible, and you want it to have as little pain in it as possible as well. So that's why I would always prioritize mobility first.
Love that, because you've had your pain and your experience, and you've grown from that. You've worked with Jenny. You understand how the body can go against it. How did becoming a father change you? Did you see what kids are naturally like and how we mess it up with societal jobs and stuff like that? How have you been changed as a coach by becoming a father as much as a man?
See the gift of play, like seeing a kid just completely engrossed in something and they don't get embarrassed. It's the best thing in the world. If a kid falls over, he gets up and keeps playing. If we're in the street and we fell over or tripped over a curb, we're like, oh, I hope nobody's seen that. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. Oh, and it just ruins your whole day. And you think about it for the rest of the day and you just don't care. Whereas kids try things and they're up for it. And they just, if it doesn't work, they'll try again. They'll try again. They'll try again. And that's the kind of attitude that I'm now trying to keep now as an adult. And that's what I see with my children. And I just try and encourage them to try things that they enjoy and to have fun, and I make training for them a game. I gamify it for them. And just make it, hey, can you lift this? Can you try this? Can you do this? Can you stand on one leg like this? Okay, close your eyes, right? Can you catch this? And, we totally gamify everything and just play. And it's so important. So, yeah, I am very big on assessing things and making sure joints are moving well, left to right, and all of that. But the other element of that is I also want you to play. I want you to be able to wiggle and not be afraid to let your knee cave in and, get yourself into weird positions and not be so tense. And it's just that if you've ever seen your kids sleep, it's just a level of sleep you'll never achieve ever again. They're completely at rest. They're always in the moment, and I just love that. And that for me, becoming a dad, it was the best thing in the world. I never understood how much you could love something until Roxy was first born, and I was like, I just couldn't believe it. I want to show you everything. I want to protect you, and I want to give you this, and I want to do this, and I just couldn't believe it. And yeah, watching her grow up and just seeing how well she could move without me even having to teach her anything, and I would just be like, hey, can you crawl like a bear? She could just crawl like a bear. There was no thought of it. Whereas if you take a group of 40 to 50-year-olds that haven't exercised for maybe 20 years, it's like, right, okay, we're going to crawl down like a bear. And they're like, it's a bit silly, isn't it? And there's just this hesitation about doing things. Whereas, we're meant to move and we should enjoy moving and we shouldn't take ourselves seriously. So that the kids just really fully ignited that in me all over again, and getting to just see them accomplishing things now is just incredible. My son's started doing pro wrestling for fun. And
Awesome.
he's just loving it, absolutely loving it. So I did it for my Christmas advert last year. I wrestled Santa and had to go for the proper pro wrestling, and he's now started with them, and he is just loving every second of it. And it's just so fun to see him doing something that's going to help him build muscle, help him get fitter, but he's also performing, he's learning confidence. He's really enjoying the whole thing. And to him, it's not like, oh, I need to go to the gym. It's like, I'm going to wrestling. I can't wait. I'm going to see the wrestlers. I'm going to play with my friends, and that's the way you want it to be. I love people to find things that they're passionate about, and if going to the gym isn't something you're passionate about, that's okay. There's so many other ways. You can learn how to dance, you can do rock climbing, there's so much stuff out there and ways to be active. You just got to find the thing that lights you up and that gets you out of bed in the morning, essentially. And that's the kind of thing that we like to do, is get people to that point that they feel like they can do anything.
I love that. And I love the way you light up when you talk about your kids, but also how it motivates you to then inspire and help other people. It's beautiful. I would love to have you on again and do again and again, but until we can get you back on, what would you want people to remember from this? Because, is it have a wiggle? Is it to treat mobility as a love language? Is it to do it for your future and for the kids and remember to play? How would you sum up this chat? Because we've covered so many things and I've still got like 20 odd pages of questions. What would you want people to take from this if this is the only time they've listened to you?
Think about putting into your movement pension. So you're going to need to draw on it one day. One day things are going to slow down a lot and going to be a lot harder. And the choices that you make today mean that's what that looked like, or that's how that outcome is going to be, of either you're really struggling to get up out of your chair and someone needs to help wipe your butt, or you've got your physical freedom and you can do whatever you want, and you are someone that can be depended on and someone that's capable. And that's what I like to be.
And how can we follow this journey? Because you're going from strength to strength, you're doing these amazing videos, you're changing the world, you're helping people just live longer and be healthier and happier. But how can we follow you on social media? How can we sign up? How can we get the method, etc., etc.?
If you just Google Tom Morrison, I'll pop up everywhere, essentially. So on YouTube, it's Tom Morrison. Facebook, it's Tom Morrison. Instagram, it's tommorrison.training. Which is annoying. Our website is tommorrison.uk. So there's actually a politician that has the .co.uk, which I was raging about. So I'm tommorrison.uk. So we'll pop up there and you can get the Simplistic Mobility Method there. So if you're someone that just wants to improve your total body flexibility, the Simplistic Mobility Method is the best one to start with. If you're someone with chronic back pain or someone with a similar history to mine, then the full beginner's bundle is great. It has the core work in it too. For the likes of yourself, I would go for shoulder posture fix. It'd be a really good one to get on top of that shoulder. So we've got programs for everything, and there's also a video call with me as well. If anybody wanted to get that, you could talk to me as well. It's always great to just hear how things relate to your own personal circumstances as well. So yeah, I'm pretty much just Tom Morrison anywhere.
Well, that's it for another week, and thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.